Hello, writers, and welcome to the Researchers Writing Podcast. This podcast is for all your researchers in the sciences who want to write papers in a structured and time efficient way so you can get published in top tier journals at a calm and steady pace. In this podcast, we talk about how we can write papers that are clear, concise, and compelling, and how to make the process of writing less hard. My name is Dr. Anna Clemens, and I am an academic writing coach with a PhD in chemistry. In the Researchers Writing Academy, my online program, I've helped hundreds of researchers get their papers published in their target journals using a streamlined writing process. If you want to succeed in your academic career, mentor your students effectively, and have your research make an impact in the world, you are in the right place. Let's get into it. Hello, writers, and welcome back to the Researchers Writing Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm not alone today on this episode, but I am being joined by Sabina Hirshfield, who is a principal research scientist at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University in New York. She has been a member of the Researchers Writing Academy for over a year. And we had this really inspiring conversation that you're about to hear. And we talked about how she experienced the Researchers Writing Academy, what she got out of it so far. But we also had this really interesting discussion about, well, making time for professional development and how Sabina had to reframe the time she spent on the course. Because she was starting to feel a bit guilty because she found it was so fun to go to the library and take the course. And she had to become aware again, well, this is actually for my job. This is professional development. So I should be spending this time. And we had this really interesting, I think, discussion about, well, how we sometimes think that work shouldn't be fun. And well, I don't know if you've heard me say this, but and I'm saying this later in the conversation too. Um, but my big goal for you is to make writing fun, to make that part of your work fun for you. So yeah, otherwise, well, we also talked about how there should be more training for academics, for researchers, because we actually don't get told, we don't get taught how to be a researcher and how to be a good mentor. And Sabina is doing some great work on both of those topics. Yeah, you also find out which part of the Researchers Writing Academy Sabina enjoyed the most. And we talk a bit about structure and how important structure is. And well, I talk about what helps me to go running. Well, you'll hear all of this now. Have fun. And yeah, we'll at the end, I'll also be answering a listener question. So stay tuned for that. Hello, Sabina. So,
Hello.
so lovely to have you on the Researchers Writing podcast. Yeah, you have been a member of the Researchers Writing Academy for more than a year. You just started your second year. Um, and yeah, thank you for joining me. And maybe if you want to start just telling the listeners more about you, what your research is about, where you're based, anything you want to share, really.
Thank you. I am based at SUNY Downstate in Brooklyn, New York. I have been at the university for almost 6 years now. And previously, I was at a nonprofit for 17. And I conduct eHealth and mHealth interventions to reduce what we don't like to say risk behavior anymore. So, really, to improve quality of life and medication adherence and relieve mental health symptoms and just really trying to be more positive about people's lives. Part of my intervention is to record videos for intervention purposes. And so the videos that we conduct are based on social cognitive theory that has social modeling and situations that may occur in someone's life and how the decisions can impact their health outcomes. So it's these kinds of models that we're working on, and we have cross-disciplinary teams within, internal medicine, infectious disease, epidemiology, anthropology, et cetera, that work together to try to make, try to look at the whole person. And it seems to be well received. So I'm hoping that we can then translate this work into clinical settings where they have an app that they can use alongside clinical care. Or if people have mobility issues or don't want to go to a clinic because of stigma, then they can do stuff remotely, which is really where we are there now technologically. It's just the adoption of this work is very slow. So a lot of my work really is just, bridging biomedical and sociological work. And so that's what I spend my time doing, is writing grants, writing papers, and mentoring.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that sounds really cool. And I think it's mega interesting how these more like, yeah, these new technology, newer
Mhm.
technologies are finally like finding their way into medicine. And
Mhm.
I'm super excited for that, because I definitely see the power of that, because as you say, there is a big stigma, and there is also, yeah, there's so many factors why people don't feel comfortable doing this, going to into a hospital, being able to have an app that helps. Yeah, amazing. And also just like when you was listing all those disciplines, like sort of just like laying out how interdisciplinary your work is, that must be a struggle in itself, I can imagine, to write about it. So segueing into why you joined the Researchers Writing Academy, do you want to talk a bit more about what your motivation was when you decided to join a year and a bit ago?
Course. So I first saw a post by you maybe a year and a half ago, and it was posted by a dear colleague of mine. So when she posts things, you know, I trust her opinion and
Mhm.
her views. And so I was like, what is this about? So I started reading and I really enjoyed what I saw. So I went to the website and answered some of the automatic questions about the struggles I have about with writing papers in a timely manner and in the way that I write papers. So that was how I discovered your course. And I mean, I would say that the course has definitely helped me think about where to start. And I struggle with how to begin writing. And in epidemiology, you're supposed to do your tables first and then share them and start writing. But a lot of the time, people just start writing. And then you, as a peer or as a mentor, I receive a paper that's almost fully written, but I don't necessarily agree with how it was interpreted. And that's happened for me too. So
Mm.
it was just taking forever to get papers written. And I felt like I need to disrupt some of these unhelpful patterns that I have.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
that was really the motivation to take the course.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's super common. I think both not really knowing when to start, but also then for for people to just like write the whole draft before they get feedback from their co-authors. Like I see this all the time, and then you kind of have this like finalized paper and then making edits on that if they go like really to the core, like maybe you don't agree with the conclusions that author drew, or maybe you don't agree with the setup, or I don't know, maybe you don't agree with which data they're presenting out of like all the data you collected. That just makes the whole writing process so tedious for everyone. And but it's like super common. I would say that's like the most common way papers are being written. Um, yeah, so once you joined the Researchers Writing Academy, what has changed for you? Like, have you seen your writing process, or maybe the writing process of your mentees change in any way?
I would say, well, when I first started, I was excited because I haven't taken any type of course in years. So I would go to the library and I'd start watching your videos, taking lots of notes, and I have a special notebook for it. And that lasted for a few weeks until I got sidetracked with, work. But that is also one of the motivations for year two is to go back to the coursework. But I have to say that the most important change for me was to talk about the concepts before writing and get buy-in from the whole writing team. And I know it will take me more time to restructure some of my writing style. I mean, I have written a lot. It's more, but it for me, it's part of the process is that I just received 3 abstracts for conferences this week.
Mm.
So they're already written from somebody else on the team. These are large teams. And I think that a lot of times they don't want to burden their colleagues to have decisions. And that is realistic because I don't really have time to talk about 15 different topics to make their life easier.
Mm.
But that is kind of, I don't know how you get around that. I just know that for my own writing, is that I usually now share output or say these are the main findings. Should these be the messages?
Mm.
So that is definitely something I've learned from taking this course and also for writing grants. It's the same process. That's working on a grant with non-grant writers. And so I have to provide information that everyone can agree on and they're cross-disciplinary. So it's challenging, but to
Mm.
get the message is, what is the key message, as you say, and how do we get that message across in a way that is convincing to reviewers? So those are things that really have, been embedded in my brain. And I really enjoy being a part of this academy. But that might be a later question. So
No, thanks so much for elaborating on this. And I think that's just helpful to hear for listeners that um you can change the way you write papers with co-authors. And it's harder for sure if you're not the lead author. Like if it's your own like project, you're like the first or last author, or like the lead author, the project owner, you then have more power to like direct or lead, the author team.
mhm.
And I love how you started doing that. And I love that you saw this work better. Um, and similarly, yeah, it is still challenging to, if it's not your own writing, or if it's not,
Yeah.
if you're not the leader of the project, it can be harder. But I think we're also modeling, right? Like by
Mm-hmm.
doing something
Mm-hmm.
differently. I mean, this is in my experience always how people change the most. If you just change the way you do stuff and people then experience it from on the other end, oh wow, like this was much easier to write. Like this was way less like draining. This maybe was much faster. We got it submitted. And then people maybe go, oh, well, Sabina, this approach was
Exactly.
actually good. And maybe then, bit by bit, you're changing the people around you as well.
That's the hope.
Have you had any specific results since joining the academy? Like, is there anything you want to share?
I had a paper that I was sitting on for, it's like I can't even, it's painful. It was at least 5 years. It was just draft after draft, just not getting the messaging. And I was able to go back to it, finish it, publish it. So that
Amazing.
was really it's an important topic to me. So, and also I had a paper with a medical student that took several years to publish, and that's a whole other realm for people who are helping others. Um, but I tried to get the same type of structure with this student, and we got it published this past year. So, or just like a few weeks ago. So
Oh.
it's been helpful in facing some of the demons that we have to, and trying to disrupt our patterns of unhealthy writing behaviors.
Mm.
So that's, I'm trying to do an intervention on myself.
Well, I mean, fantastic. Congratulations for
Thank
publishing those
you.
papers. That's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, do you wanna, you mentioned earlier when you joined, you like went to the library, had a notebook, um, and I'm wondering like how did you carve out that time to take the course or how did you approach it? Because it sounds like you had a bit of a ritual around it.
I did, and I need to go back to it. I just said to myself, I'm going on Fridays, I'm going to the library from 10 to 12. And that's my time. That's my professional development time because that's exactly what it is. But
Mm.
I didn't see it that way at first, and it felt almost like I was taking personal time.
Mm.
But I realized, no, I enjoy doing this, but it's also helping me. So that will help other people, which makes it professional.
Mm.
And after I get back from Estonia, I will carve out time again to resume the course, your course, but also probably start over again so that I think some of the modules have been updated, but
Mm.
also as a refresher. And believe it or not, I have a 13-year-old who I talked to about these things, and I told him that I want to publish with him before he finishes high school.
Aw, that's so
And
cool.
I say it because my father is a retired professor and we never got to publish together. He's
Mm.
not well now, so it's
Mm.
never going to happen. And I want to make sure it happens with my child. And so he's a really good writer. He's had a tutor for years. And I think I'm curious to see what he thinks about your algorithm because I feel like when you learn at that age, you can do anything.
Whoa. Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's so cool. Wow, I'm amazed. That's such a cool idea. And I mean, I love how I mean, that you liked it so much going through the course. It almost felt like, wow, this isn't work. I mean, that's just beautiful. And I think, I mean, I have the same sometimes when I really enjoy doing something, I almost feel guilty because I'm like, well, am I supposed to enjoy it this much? Like, is it even work still? But I think this is the whole like, oh, I mean, at least for me, I feel like this is like this weird mentality of always thinking, oh, work has to be like stressful and like I don't know, somehow uncomfortable, but it really like doesn't have to be. And
No,
that's the whole kind of well, my whole like underlying motivation with the courses. I want to show people how much fun writing can be and that it actually can be something like a part of your day that actually is one that you enjoy because you get to um be there and interact with your research and your science and this thing you care about. Um, And yeah, so I just love hearing that. And also I love that you then reframed it as, wow, this is actually professional development, because I think this is something that we often don't realize because it's not so, I don't know, nobody in academia, it's not really talked about very much that one should continue learning throughout
It's an
one's
odd thing,
career.
isn't it? It
Yeah,
doesn't make sense. It's
it
like
does make that, yeah.
your learning doesn't stop once you get your terminal degree. And so I never really understand that, especially when I've heard people say, I don't need a mentor. Everyone can use a mentor at any time in their life. So I find that it's that mentality, and it's also not valuing continual learning
Mm,
is I also think is problematic and short-sighted. So, but also, like you said, it should be fun. We
mm,
do stuff because we're passionate about it. So you should surround yourself with people who feel the same.
mhm,
We can't always work with the people we like, but we can do the best, to make it enjoyable. And I don't know, I work too much. I know that. I am told that at home, but it's just part of who I am.
mm,
You know,
mm,
it drives you. It
mm.
keeps you sane. So I
Yeah.
feel, I don't know. It's all work has always been my stability in life.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and I mean, um, yeah, absolutely. I agree. It should be fun, or at least part of the day should be fun. I know not everything can be fun. Like, I don't think anyone has work where like they love
No,
every aspect. Like, I don't know anyone really likes doing their taxes. Or, I don't know. Like, there is just things that are no fun, and that's totally fine. Um, and yeah, I find this discussion really interesting. I always think like, yeah, we get conditioned into, I mean, especially academia. I mean, I would just wonder, why are we not embracing continually learning? And I think part of it is that we don't want to almost like admit that we don't know something already. And I feel like at least this was my personal experience in academia. And I think this very much depends also like on your department, on your like surroundings.
mhm,
But for me, partly, I was in an environment where it was really hard to admit not knowing something, where you kind of was just in this like atmosphere of, oh, we're all very smart and we all know everything already. And I wonder if it comes from that, but we then, because you need to be able to
hmm,
say, hey, actually, I don't know how to write a paper in the most time efficient way, or I don't know
right,
how to write a paper that is like that really communicates what I want to say very clearly. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, you need to be able to admit this to yourself before you can
right,
then,
right.
take a course. And I think, um, yeah, I wonder if it's from this. I mean, certainly with writing, we don't talk about it very much, and it's never really talked about very much that we actually need to learn how to do it. My experience has always been, oh, you're just expected to know how to do it because now you're an
That is
academic and now you're supposed to write. So the
most
impression
people,
people,
most people don't write very well. Let's
yeah.
just be honest. It doesn't matter how much education you have. I just learning how to write in a scientific style takes years. It just does. There are very few people that I know, and almost none of my mentees. It's because they need the training.
Mhm.
And but also on the flip side, there are people that I know, unnamed, who publish all the time, and it's quantity, but not quality.
Mhm.
They know how to write the paper and get it out as soon as possible, but it's very cookie cutter.
Right.
And that to me is problematic too. It's like
Mhm.
you like carve up your data into these little pieces and just talk about each little piece.
Yeah, it's like salami
Uh,
slicing. Yeah, it's I mean, I always wonder how fulfilling is that? Like talking about fun again, like, is that really why you went into science for? Just to
that's a
be
great,
able to like have the list, I don't
Yeah.
know, to look at your Google Scholar profile and just do. I mean, of course, that feels good. Like we all have like an ego and we like seeing like the H's,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, of course. Of
but
course.
I don't know. Like, I wonder if it's really like deeply fulfilling.
I I should ask people, even though they'd probably be offended. I just want to know now. I want to know. Also, I'll just say off slightly off topic, but maybe it will be useful at some point. Um, I looked at a lot of colleagues, uh, Google Scholar profiles because I'm waiting for tenure. And I looked at the top 10, the most cited publications of a lot of colleagues. And I noticed a pattern. The
Hmm.
people who are particularly successful, that they started off in someone else's lab. And so their most highly cited articles are someone else's.
Hmm.
So then what I did was, within the top 10, I looked at how many they were first author and how many citations they
Hmm.
had from those papers, so that I realized that I didn't come from a lab. I was at a nonprofit. So then I felt better because I was like, actually,
Hmm.
most of the people that I know who are doing like what you would consider extremely well got a head start.
Hmm. Hmm. I think this is a very, very important discussion and very, very important to be aware of. And I think most of the like assistant professors, people who are starting tenure track, who joined their Researchers Writing Academy, say exactly that. Hey, I'm now a PI of my own, and I don't have anyone who's like helping me or like who I can ask questions, or like when I was in this group, like the PI just managed to get our papers in these journals. Now I don't have that PI anymore. I don't know how to do it. Or they never had that PI, right? And then, but it's almost, I mean, then you don't even have the head start. And often both groups don't really know. I mean, some can like imitate what their PI did, but then sometimes they don't like all aspects of what the PI did. Um, and yeah, and sometimes it's still hard. um, yeah, so I think this is just, yeah, really, really good to talk about. Um, because I mean, it just emphasizes how important it is to actually learn the skills for yourself and have a method that you feel like comfortable with, that you want to like, that you can then employ for the rest of your career.
Right. I mean, I think the basis of your course is the writing, but that's just part of it. What I discovered is that there are so many people across the globe who are going through the same thing. And having these writing skills is valuable, and you could take it anywhere with you, but also learning how to then become a principal investigator or be in a university setting, or just to propel your career forward takes a lot more than just writing. And
Mm.
so it's been really nice to meet with people, and I think some of the tenets of your program have helped inspire this course that I'm going to be teaching in a few weeks, about how to become a researcher
Oh,
and answer
nice.
those questions. How do I get from point A to B?
Hmm.
And it's all about communication and just giving somebody a roadmap. So that's what I'm
Mm.
doing. Is like, it's not hard. Once you know, it's
Mm.
not a mystery.
Mm.
It's like who you know and who's going to help you and who to ask for help and who to bother.
Mm.
It's demystifying that. And so I'm hoping that if that course goes well, that's something that I can share with other people too.
Fantastic. Wow, I love that. I love that. Um, yeah, I guess I had to learn it myself the hard way. When
Oh,
you don't know who to ask, right? And you feel like awful of having to ask the same person again, but you just do not know who else can I ask or how can I ask? Like that sounds really, really, really helpful. I'm glad for the researchers who get to take that
Oh,
course.
thanks. Thanks.
Um, coming back to the Researchers Writing Academy, which elements do you like the most of any? Because we offer quite a few different things, and not everything works for everyone. Have you tried out anything? Yeah, what do you enjoy?
I really, my favorite is the writing retreats.
Hmm.
I just love that, and I need to get back into that flow of doing it because it got me to write. I was just like, other people are doing this. I was accountable. I was held accountable. And so I did my work and it was really nice. I liked that we, come together. It's very simple, quick introductions, a little bit of meditation, and then get to work.
Mm.
It was like chop chop. And then you have these time frames. I like structure. Most people do like structure. They don't even realize they need it. Um, that is also a skill in life that serves people well. I think giving other people structure
Mm,
can be time consuming and taxing emotionally, but
mm,
it's how you get your work done and get other people to get work done for you or with you.
mm,
So I really appreciate that. And I haven't seen posts in a while, but I was getting a lot of posts from the RWA, someone's new or someone has
mm,
questions. And real I found that to be the sense of community was really growing for me. So I would like
mm,
to be more involved in that.
mm,
And I, yeah, I would say the writing retreats and the community was very exciting. And I did have a branch off meeting based on people from RWA, but I
right.
had to put it on hold because of all the other things going on.
Mm,
It's very hard, but it's about mentorship. A lot of
mhm,
people want to be better mentors.
mm.
So,
Yeah, also a very important topic
yeah.
that we don't really have any guidance on. Um, yeah, cool. Yeah, I really love what you said about structure because I've thought about this a lot recently too, because the success of the writing retreats have been a little bit surprising to me and of the co-writing sessions that we facilitate. The co-writing sessions are just shorter. Writing retreats are 3 hours and co-writing sessions are 1 hour. And we facilitate both. And I was honestly surprised by how many people find these helpful. But now I'm thinking more and more about it. It makes total sense because when I get to participate in things like that, where someone just has the structure for me, and I started doing this for something completely different, but for running. Like I discovered there's a thing such as guided runs. And I don't need much from the guidance. I just need to like choose my time. Like I want to go for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. Someone has to say, okay, let's get started. I can listen to my music or do whatever I want. Someone says like, okay, 5 minutes down, or like take it a bit easy the first 5 minutes. And then like, I don't know, midway through, and like just these like little check-ins like motivate me to go running so much. Like, and it's so funny because it feels so simple, but it just helps. And I had a bit of a difficulty admitting to myself that it felt so like being parented. I don't know. It felt so silly to me. And I reflected on it and I was like, no, it's totally okay. Like, if this is what gets me running, like, I should just do it.
Are
And
you
that,
kidding me? I love when people, my thing is just tell me what you need. Tell me what to do so I can do it. And that is, I think a lot of people want to be told, like, not told what to do in that way, but given the guidance,
Mhm,
given a roadmap. Someone's
mhm.
literally giving you a roadmap to running.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what people need because then they know where to go.
yeah, yeah. I
I think
mean,
that's a common, you know, motivational block when you don't have that.
mm. Yeah, would you recommend other researchers to join the Researchers Writing Academy? What would you say to them? Maybe if someone's like a bit on the fence, doesn't know, oh, is this the right program for me or not? What would you say to them?
Well, I do recommend it, and I know at least one doctoral student has joined because I suggested it.
Yes, yes.
And I've told my mentees about it. I told my colleagues about it. And, whenever I see a post, I always, from you or something, I always, cheer you on.
Oh,
It's because
I
it's,
appreciate it.
yeah, I mean, it's not just, I mean, I can get papers written, but this has definitely helped me to be more, what's the word, efficient with my time and to think about the writing in a different way and in a much more structured way because I do get stuck.
Mm,
And when I talk to colleagues about this, I think a lot of people don't want to admit that they have issues with writing, like you were
mm,
saying.
mm,
And I think, or they don't even realize that they have issues because this is what they do.
mm,
They're not forced to look at themselves and how could they improve in anything. And I think that it's an important thing to do is to look at how you work.
mm.
I know I would like to be more efficient. I'm considered efficient and I feel like I could be more efficient. So, um,
Yeah, it's so funny. I was saying to my team the other day, we had like a meeting, like a kind of quarterly meeting, and I was saying how I felt like I was so slow this past quarter. I feel like so I don't know that things were just not getting done, and everyone was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like I feel that way. I was like, "You feel that way, but you've been so productive." Like I don't know. I think it's just something we have in here.
I feel that the biggest problem in all of the things we've talked about is poor time management.
Mm,
And if people learn how to manage their time better, it will also help them to think about how they want to approach the writing and the issues that they're writing about, because that it does make you think, like, stop, like, is this a priority? Should I be doing this right now? I want to do this now, but I really should
mm,
be doing the other thing because that's due tomorrow.
mhm.
Um, and so I have yet to find any good time management clips. I don't know. That's something I think that would be super helpful in a program because it's so common. If it weren't common, there wouldn't be a term for it. So
Mhm, mhm.
um, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, actually, I am about to record, and it will actually air before this episode. I will record an episode on carving out time, like strategies to carve out time to take a writing course, and also in the end to do whatever you want to spend your time on. That could also be writing, of course. And yeah, so stay tuned for that.
Oh,
I
great.
will share it in the community as well because I think it will help everyone. And I was so glad when I finally sat down to like develop this episode. I was like, oh, I should have done this years ago. Because I think it's
Yeah.
just, as you say, like so fundamental. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
and yeah, I also realized, okay, I have adapted a lot of strategies that are now just like part of my routine that I forgot I'm even doing. Like because they've become so I'm almost like sometimes not aware what people are not doing, if that makes sense. Not that I'm
Yes.
doing everything perfectly, like not at all. Like I'm also still learning. I mess up a lot. I like far, far from perfect. But when it comes to time management, I guess I've spent a lot of time in the last few years running my own business, just figuring a few things out and having a bit more freedom and a bit more time to figure
Mm.
things out, as opposed to someone who's in academia, because I know how it felt being in academia. Like I had so much to do. I never had time to like stop and reflect. And I was only a PhD student. Like I didn't even like get to the professor stage where I know like things grow and
Mhm.
grow and grow even more. So yeah, anyway, this will be I will share this soon.
Oh, I look forward to it.
Yeah, is there anything that you want to add? Anything that I haven't asked that you want to share?
I guess What is your motivation for having people stay for more than a year?
Mhm. So the idea is that if you want to get more, like, if you want to kind of join, like, my idea is, okay, in the first year you take the course, ideally, but life happens, like not everyone manages to do that in a year. And that's also like,
Mm-hmm.
I also want to unshame this a little bit because some people feel awful about this. And I just want to say, like, if you feel like, I mean, not you personally, so we don't like people, if they feel like, oh my God, I should have, like, why didn't I manage this in a year? This, I mean, we hear this a lot because things just happen. Like, you cannot imagine the amount of emails we get about things. People saying this happened, that happened, that happened. I didn't manage to do it in a year. So totally normal. Um, but also since we offer so many like other components of the program, um, and I know like the writing retreats, the co-writing sessions, we know that these things just help, and we just, yeah, started building these things out, or like also writing sprints, just having, yeah, we just want to be a program that you can just have there by your side throughout your career if you want to. Like, if you want to stay, you can stay with us forever and you get the support. Like, that's kind of the idea. Like, in the beginning, you learn the method, and then we help you like implement that method efficiently and continually. Okay, so Sabina, thank you so much for this interview, joining me, taking the time. My last question is, where can people find you online? Is there any links you want to share, or anything you
Hmm.
want to promote?
I'm on Google Scholar, so that's where all my work is. I mean, my if you just Google my name, I'm the only Sabina Hirshfield on the
Mhm.
planet, as far as I know. So,
Yeah, I mean, I can link to your Google Scholar in the show notes
okay.
if you want.
Yeah, I mean, that just it gives you a quick background on people can see what you write about. So I feel like that's the best way to understand what someone's interested in. I don't really, I don't like to, I don't know.
That's
I'm
okay.
like not shy, but then online I'm shyer. It's kind of funny. I'm like, people who are more introverted tend to be more outgoing online. It's very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. Funny.
I know. I'll just say I had a friend who I went to college with and we were roommates. But when she would write to me, and she didn't say that much like in person, but when she would write to me, it'd be like paragraphs. It was very, I was just like, I couldn't understand it. So
It's funny sometimes.
it is funny. So, but thank you for asking for the interview. It was very nice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sabina, for joining me today,
Yeah,
taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to continuing working with you inside the academy.
same.
Hope to see you very soon on a
You
call in
will.
the
Thank you
community.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Are you unsure whether enrolling in the Researchers Writing Academy, my online program, would be the right next step for you? Then, if you're not quite sure, I highly, highly, highly recommend you to take my free introductory training. There, you'll get the bird's eye view of what the journal publication formula, that's my step by step system to write clear and concise papers, really is. So just type in researcherswritingpodcast.com/free and get access to that free training right away. So type in researcherswritingpodcast.com/free and access your training. Let's get back to the episode. All right, let's get to our listener question. Today's listener question is from Ennis. Thank you so much, Ennis, for submitting. Please do submit questions for me to answer under researcherswritingpodcast.com/question. It's funny because people ask me questions all the time, but then I'll try to submit them. So please do submit them so I have questions to answer. Because I do think that even if you feel like, oh, is it only me having this question? I can assure you, like, so many people will benefit from hearing the answer. So many people are wondering the same. Now, Ennis asked me something that also a lot of people have asked me before, so I'm very happy to be answering this today. And he asked, I'm confused about which tense I should use in my paper. When should I use present tense and when should I use past tense? All right. So there is a lot of confusion about this. And also, I see in published papers, this isn't always done correctly. So it can be really hard to know because you can't really learn from just reading papers. um, but I have actually a really simple rule for this. So the rule is present tense for established facts. So for example, rust is formed by oxygen reacting with iron in the presence of moisture. Like, this is a established fact. Like, we've known this for years, years and years and years and years, right? Probably hundreds of years. So if something has become like scientific knowledge, it's something you would read in an encyclopedia, then you can write it in present tense. Also, if something has just become like accepted, established knowledge in your field. So this isn't knowledge that has just been acquired, but this is something that we take as a fact. Okay, that's for present tense. Now, past tense, this is what you would use for your own findings. So, for example, we found that depression was less common among adopted children who experienced warm parenting. Now, I made this up. I made this up. But this is an example of a finding, right? A finding that you would write about in a paper. This is not yet an established fact. So please do write about your findings in past tense to make this clear, because sometimes it can become very confusing when you're discussing your results. And you mix up the tenses, because then the reader may not know, oh, was this a finding by the author? Or is this like something that's already established? So the rule is, do write about your own findings in past tense. And in your introduction section, especially, there is another tense. This is another form of present tense, actually, the present perfect, that we use there a lot. And this is, for example, Vista et al. Have shown that, or the authors of the study have found that, right? This like have found, have shown, have demonstrated. This is what we commonly use to signal someone else has done research on this. So this is something we commonly use in the introduction section. And otherwise, we often use present tense and we often use past tense. So hopefully this was helpful. This little rule, present tense for established facts, past tense for your own findings. All right, we got quite technical here at the end of this episode, but I like it. I'm here for it. It's funny because my opinion is generally grammar matters less than structure. Like, if you know how to structure your paper well, you don't need a super huge grasp of like grammar. Or rather, you can make mistakes. You can make grammatical mistakes in your paper, and it won't hurt you as much as if it was the other way around. Like, if the grammar in your paper is perfect, but the structure is really off and the story is incoherent, that is way, 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 way worse. But that being said, I think knowing just a few foundational grammar rules is really, really helpful, because it makes your writing more clear. And in this case, for the tense, I think I mentioned this like just before, how it can be confusing when you mix up past tense and present tense in this sense. It can be very confusing for your reader. So just knowing this really helps. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, this interview with Sabina. And thanks again to Sabina, and see you very soon. Bye. If you would like to submit a question for me to answer on the podcast, please head to researcherswritingpodcast.com/question. That's researcherswritingpodcast in one word.com/question. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, it would really mean the world to me if you could review it in your favorite platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever app you're using. The more reviews a show has, the more likely it will be shown to others who are looking for podcasts in the academic writing space. So thank you.